Hello. There we go. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the stream. We do not have a particular research plan today, so it's a super good time. Hello, Josh. Hello. It's a super good time if you are interested in family history, if you have questions about your family trees. It's a real good day to ask me stuff because I don't have a plan. In the absence of a plan, I'm just going to wander around this tree that we've been building on the stream. So, last stream, we talked about deep investigation trees that we can use. There, I'll open up another tab that we can use to really dig into a hypothesis about some branch of the tree that we don't actually know for sure whether it's connected to our current tree or not. Let's see, this tree. Nope, the only one I have on the Hammond tree, we look around at the Phelps and Crow family. The reason we think this one is interesting is that we had some unexplained DNA matches that are on this individual here, descendants of this person, John Crow Phelps, who, as far as our research suggests, shouldn't be blood related to us. And so it became interesting to go figure out what his ancestry is, in part to see if there are any other ways that we might be connected to him. His father, John Crow Phelps' father, married someone, the widow Betsy Bigelow, who is our third, I think, fourth, nth, something here. What is she to us? She is my grandfather's. Oh, we don't know. Yeah. So Zira here married Betsy. We are descended from Betsy. He is a step parent. We shouldn't be blood related to him. So we dug around a whole bunch in his first marriage to see whether it's possible. My current favorite hypothesis, the one I like, is that Betsy, who we have no idea who she was or where she came from, was that Betsy could have been a sister of Zira's first wife. And that would explain, therefore, she would be the aunt of John Crow Phelps, and that would explain why we would have a DNA match. It's a fun hypothesis. We got no proof for it. They lived in upstate New York at a time when records were super scarce. And the Crow family here is not terribly well documented. Not loving the whole documentation situation there. Nathaniel Crow. We found land records for Nathaniel Crow, but we have not found a will. So, super bummer. I don't even know how we know that that's when he died. But we don't have a will, we don't have a probate. That would be awesome, right? Because we could then see whether it names Betsy Bigelow as one of his children, or Betsy Phelps as one of his children. She would have been Phelps by then, I think. Anyhow, so we did a big deep dive into that tree. But where we sit with this investigation tree is a spot that I sort of cautioned against on the last stream, which is researching the ancestry of John Crow Phelps is really fun. And it turns out that he's descended from a bunch of lines that are super well documented. And so there is just a ton of stuff that I can build into this tree. And there comes a point where I need to check my enthusiasm for just building John Crow Phelps's tree because I can, and saying I may be doing hours and hours and hours and hours of research that don't end up mattering to anybody because, well, okay, they probably matter to the descendants of John Crow Phelps. I just don't know who those people are. They don't matter. This research doesn't matter to me if I can't demonstrate that it is connected to my family in any way. That's why we keep a separate investigation tree, is so that if this whole line of inquiry turns out to be bogus because we are related to John Crow Phelps in some other way, or I don't think it's a DNA error, but who knows? Like, if something has gone wrong there, because sometimes the results from Ancestry are bogus. or are accounted for in some other way. Um, if it turns out that this is not a set of my ancestors, the separate tree allows me to just delete the tree and the whole thing goes away with very little mess. There's not a whole lot of pollution of hundreds of individuals in my tree that I have to go back and delete. I have talked on this stream a lot of times about the pain of deleting people when they become intermingled in my tree. So and I've done a little more on this family than I probably should have in some of my own trees for fishing expedition purposes to try to draw out additional DNA matches. And I may end up regretting that, and I may have to go tear them all out. That's how it is. It is what it is. So, um, all of that is to say, let's not continue to work on that investigation tree today, because it's probably not a fruitful line of inquiry. Let's find something else to do on this tree. There are a whole ton of things on the Hammond tree that we have not thoroughly investigated. Um, and my goal is always to try, it's the thing I like, is that I'm always trying to build further back and trying to find more ancestors. That's what I like. I like a big beefy tree, a thick tree a tall tree that goes way back tall, not thick. The thick tree, the wide tree is going to be the cousins, right? It's going to be all the siblings and cousins. The siblings and who they married and their descendants and the cousins nth removed, that is not my jam so much unless I meet one of you and we want to talk about how we're related, or I want to help build out the parts of your tree because they're interesting. But other than that, I like a tall tree that goes back a long way. And so I was thinking, where we left off, in the early days of this stream, we did a bunch of good work on the Hammond paternal line because it happened that there was a very interesting mystery on that line, and we got to a lot of the bottom of that, right? And a lot of how we came to understand that tree better was through not one but two books written in the late 1800s, early 1900s about the Hammond family. Filled in a lot of these gaps. Once we figured out how we are connected to the people in that book, which we did, we were able to build out lots of cool stuff. You will notice that we've got a lot of stuff kind of going off that way on the father's lines. We do not have as much information on the maternal lines, and a lot of those lines I have researched elsewhere, and I know that they are interesting. So why don't we do just a chill, easy stream today we'll research some stuff that I've researched in the past. We'll try to find stuff that comes out of books. I'm actually intrigued by, if I remember correctly, Abigail Swift is going to take us back to some interesting stuff. So why don't we go see what's up with her? Elizabeth Honeywell, hang on, let's go back. Elizabeth Honeywell is another candidate that we could look at. My recollection is that we don't get very much further back on her Honeywell family, but let's look. Okay. So how do we start? Where do we just even start, right? We got other than knowing her name, we don't know anything else about her. Let's go to oh wait, did we link her to the page in the book here? We did not, because we suck. Did we do it with Benjamin? We did not. I am like literally the worst here. This is just the worst. There we are. There's the book. That's what we want. We want the book. All right, so what we're going to do, we'll do some magic side-by-side view. Ba-ding. There we are. Heck yeah. So I love, you can do this on a Mac. I use a Windows machine, but one can do this side-by-side browser window docking thing. Yeah, this is good. And what I love about doing this with a beefy large monitor, okay, so there'll be a little, no, you can see fine. You'll be able to see fine, I think. Let me scroll here. You're going to not be able to see the probates. It's fine. It's fine. We can more easily copy information over from the book because it's not going to give it to us for free, right? We're not going to get it automatically. But something that we want to do, we've got Antipas's we've got Antipas's page here, but we didn't create a link for Benjamin, his father. So let's go find him. Scroll. So what I typically do is just scroll backwards. There we go. Benjamin the second, youngest son of Benjamin, son of William. Aha! Benjamin Jr. Benjamin, son of Benjamin, son of William, was born. So this is him. This is the guy. That's our guy. All right, we're going to go one. We're going to switch that to the one-page view. What has happened here? Where did we go? Here we are. Here we are. Here we are. Because I'm trying to make sure we get to the correct page. Dink. There he is. Okay, so we know from the book is telling, oh, wait, what's that connected to? Oh, okay, that record is for the birth of Antipas, so it doesn't link to any of his facts here. That is okay. All right, what we want to do is a couple things. We want to first see if we can resolve any hints. Sandwich, form, and situate. Let's go see if this guy is him. Father's name, Benjamin Hammond. Hammond. We want Benjamin, son of Benjamin, baptized 1740. That's not our guy. Nope, that's not our guy. This is not our guy. Okay. So that's not the record for this guy. So let's not save that to the tree. But this one is. So this comes to us, U.S. New England marriages prior to 1700. This is a book called Torrey's something. Hang on. Torrey's marriages prior to 1700, which a classic. Here we are. See what Family Search has to say about the book. It is a classic book. Yeah, just called Torrey. Correct. That's why I couldn't remember the full thing. Torrey himself died in 1962, has been carried forward by Melinda Lett Sanborn. So this is originally an index of just all known information about all marriages in the New England and slightly broader area. And this is the important part. It itself is not a source. It is at best, a secondary source. It is a pointer that will tell you that at some point, Torrey found a record that seems to suggest that this thing occurred, right? So what it tells you is that Torrey or Sanborn found a record that indicates this marriage. And that means its existence in Torrey, and Torrey filled in a lot of gaps, like in here. Let's look at this page. Here, Hammond, Benjamin. And we don't know what the source is, and we don't know if it might be, and we have, for example, this is the record we're looking at for us here. Benjamin Hammond, 1643 to 1747. That's not proof of either one of those dates. It just means that Torrey read them somewhere. And then Elizabeth, in this case, he's got Hannawell. And the fact that it's in brackets, I believe, means that it's not proven for Torrey's satisfaction. Let's find out if it says. Original manuscript. Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow. Wow. That's cool. Okay. That's what surname, my first name. Okay. Beneath the husband's name, this is birth and death years. Right. The husband's name is the wife's name. Surname usually from. If the surname is presented without brackets or punctuation, the entry is usually from an actual marriage record. If the surname is shown within brackets, it is usually inferred with confidence from a source such as a deed or will. If a question mark precedes or follows the surname, it is less certain or the source may be questionable. A line is shown in place of an unknown maiden name. If a line replaces both given and surnames, then there is evidence that the man had a wife, but the name is unknown. Small square brackets indicate a maiden name not derived from marriage records. Square brackets. So what we have is Torrey has reason to think that her maiden name is Honeywell from a will. I think, if I remember correctly, that's coming from her father's will. Okay, fine. So we'll go ahead and attach it, because the benefit here is that knowing that it's in Tory means that we now know other records exist somewhere that we can go look for. And so I'm going to go ahead and attach this. I'm going to mark this as the source. He's guessing that their marriage occurred in 1702 in New England, which just means he doesn't know. And so I'm not going to add that at all because I don't find that helpful. And oftentimes it means married before multiple dates. Inferred dates are indicated in some fashion. Let's go look again. What's the date? B 1702, B 1701, Worcester. Hang on. A full date usually indicates the actual marriage. Right of marriage name, residence, place. Multiple listed from where known. Why is it a B? B. By 1702, by 1701. So that probably is because of a birth of a first child. So what we could do is we could say by or before, and Ancestry will let us do that. And we could say New England doesn't help us, but USA is fine. And we know it's going to be USA because they were both born in, sorry, this would have been Massachusetts Bay Colony. It was nowhere near being the United States. For ancestry purposes, we use the place name that it has today. Ancestry doesn't have a great indexing of historical place names. WikiTree does a lot better on that, and WikiTree's standard is to use the name of the place as it was at the time that the thing occurred. I don't do that on Ancestry. So, Family Search, I don't know if it has a particular standard on their trees. Okay, so what we're trying to figure out is how and whether we want to attach and put that in here. I don't find this helpful if there's not a marriage record, because I will already have the births of their children once I add their children. So I'm just not going to bother adding the marriage at all. So there we go. And then we're going to attach the same record to Elizabeth Honeywell. Her name actually is in there, and we're going to not attach the marriage. There we go. Save that to the tree. Okay, so now we have, this is a thing that Ancestry's been doing that I really like. Let me just blow this back up, because we don't need the book at the moment. Something I dig a lot about Ancestry is, here we go. Oh, it's in my shoebox. Wow, good for me. They have been indexing some of those same family books that are over on the, that are otherwise on archive.org, which is where we've been looking at the books, right? Now, the benefit to archive.org is that this book is going to be there and it'll be free. But sometimes Ancestry has gotten the rights to books that were written later. In this case, this book was written in 1905, which means it's out of copyright, which means it should be over on archive.org. But then you have the additional benefit of the fact that Ancestry has usually indexed part or all of the book, and that allows us to attach it as a source, which is pretty sweet. And look, so this is a volume of somebody else who is descended from some other line of the Hammond family, most likely. And here we are, Benjamin, England, his grandson, right. Okay, this is going to talk about the origins of Benjamin Hammond, which I'm not going to cover on today's stream. That one is a fun story that we'll do as a whole stream sometime. Okay, blah, 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 no. Reason being that origin story for Benjamin is wrong. It's wrong. It's in multiple books. It's wrong. Okay, but here we are. We found our Benjamin Hammond Jr., fourth son, yada, yada, yada. This matches what we were seeing in... this is nice. What's nice about these books is as long as they're roughly correct. Very nice. Now we got some information about Elizabeth. This is good. Daughter of Captain Richard Honeywell, and then we have a footnote. Notice that they're also footnoting to the Hammond genealogy book that we are using. Son of Roger Honeywell. Date and place of birth and son are not known. Witness to a deed in 1667. He lived in Maine, which would have been part of New England, Massachusetts Bay Colony, which is part of general New England at the time. It is the place we now know as Maine, but it became Maine much later. Good. We got a footnote, and then there's footnotes to the footnote. That's pretty cool. This is great because it is actually pointing to source information. And I will say that story about Benjamin's origin is pointing to source information. It's just that the source that this book used is also wrong. And so this book doesn't know that the first source was wrong. It's just reprinting what the first source said. It's wrong. Okay, so we now know Richard Honeywell. And, oh, look at that. We got petition 1730. She petitioned the legislature of Massachusetts for a grant of land in consideration of her father's military service. This is a primary source. Well, this is a reprint of what would be a primary source, right? We're getting this from a good spot, which is a petition of Elizabeth Hammond of Rochester, daughter of Captain Richard Honeywell. There. So that's what Tori was pulling that from, right? We now know what her maiden name was. We don't know when they married. And look here, we've got a list of their children from this book. All right, so why don't we go look at, we're going to go ahead and look again here at, this is probably going to say very similar things. Let's blow this. Oop, too much blowed up. All right, there we go. He married Elizabeth Honeywell, daughter of Captain Honeywell of New Hampshire, of Maine, and had 7 sons and 1 daughter. There we go. Okay, so these kind of reinforce. This one's actually a much better source, even though it's not the Hammond book. This was written in 1894. This was written in 1905. Much better information here. Well, better information about Elizabeth, right? Yeah, that's great. Okay, so what we have is, yes, that record matches Elizabeth, and matches Benjamin. There's no need to add the residence there. We're just attaching it. Okay, but that gave us some good information. Okay, this is Benjamin Hammond in London. Our guy never lived in London. We're going to ignore that. Great. Now we're going to go to Elizabeth and see what kind of hints we have for her. Oh, no. One of the things we wanted to make sure we did was attach this link here. Web link. And book page, page number, what page are we on? 243. 243. Third gen. All right. Now we have the link. We'll also put that same link on Elizabeth's profile. Now we can bounce over to Elizabeth and add that web link. That'll take us to the book. Hammond genealogy, page 243. All right. So we got something. Great. Now let's go see what Elizabeth's hints are, because I believe the situation here is that other than that she was the daughter, oh yeah, okay. Clue to Elizabeth's death date. Yeah. After March 1730. Yeah, that's going to refer to, okay, annals. Let's try to find that on archive.org. Boom. There it is. So there's the free version of the book that is indexed on Ancestry. Ta-da! Same book. I don't remember what page we want. There it is. Hammond Families on page 8. Starts on page 85. 85. Let's see if that's... matches. Look at that. That's a very cool looking scan of a book, is what it is. Okay. Wait, we might have skipped over the Hammonds. Uh-oh. Oh, we're doing that. Oh, it's doing, there we go. It's doing that jumping around thing. Yeah, so the pages don't always match up. That's actually saying page 30, so we need to go quite a ways further. There it is. Okay. So that's the little tree. Let's put this on single view so I can zoom in some more. Yeah, look at that. So there's our little tree. Here's William Hammond. These are wrong. This is Benjamin Hammond, said to have married Mary Vincent. Mostly we don't have a problem with that. This is the guy we're looking at, Captain Benjamin marrying Elizabeth Honeywell. And then it shows, here's the line going up to her, Richard Honeywell. I'm suspicious. I don't think we know that. Let's go find out how we know that. And then this shows how. Okay, this is descended from another one of Benjamin and Elizabeth's children. So we are descended from Antipas. They are descended from, the author of this book goes through the line of Josephus, Antipas's brother. Great family names, these ones. Can't hardly beat them. Okay, so this book, the reason we bopped over here is that this book doesn't say, right, how do we know? It doesn't even give Captain Honeywell's first name. Doesn't give any of the details of how we know. But this one, skip the bogus parts, skip. Wait. Okay, that's his father. We're not there yet. This is the guy we're looking at. Captain Benjamin Hammond. This is our guy. Skip. Getting to, there we go. Captain Hammond married Elizabeth, the daughter of Captain Richard Honeywell, the noted Indian fighter of Maine. There it is, March 2nd, 1730 to 1731. So, here's what we know from that. We now know that the way we kind of represent this is that she was alive and living in Rochester as Elizabeth Hammond. So we're going to go 3/2/1730, and we're going to go ahead and add the double dating, 2nd of March. There we go. That makes it, Ancestry gets a little, even though it offered it to us as an autocomplete, it also still gets cranky, and that is stupid. And then we're going to go Rochester, Mass, because the record says that's where she was living at the time. So, petition for land from father's military service, naming her as Elizabeth Hammond, daughter of Richard Honeywell, deceased. Ordered that prayer be granted. Are hereby appointed 500 acres. Awarded 500 acres. Done. Okay. And then we add. So now we have that. Yes. Cool. So now we know that she was living at that time. And we know that she had her, we can now start to go down here and look at the family. We can add the other children if we want. And, oh, and then this down here, we've still got this is his big old footnote, right? Big old footnote that has its own footnotes of Captain Richard Honeywell. And so we have early immigrant to Maine, died at Saco in 1654. Oh, Roger, his father, died in 1654. Date of the son, not known. Witness to a deed in 1667. 1681. So we know these would be things we would put in that would be like residence facts or military facts. But what the benefit is, what helps us there, is that it reminds us that he's still alive at these various times. In 1697, he petitioned the legislature of Massachusetts, praying for compensation for his military service and injuries. We scroll down here. Here's the rest of the footnote. So the petition is going to talk about what he said he did, and then he came to his death. Yeah, the natives got their revenge good on them. So, fun fact that we haven't found here yet, but it is somewhere, is that Richard was actually nicknamed Indian Killer. And I am sorry. Uh, that's my ancestor, and that sucks, and I'm sorry. It's one of them things. As we go along, those of us who are descended from the colonizers are going to find that colonizers going to colonize and that they did some not very nice things. Okay, so we have here Captain Honeywell probably married a daughter of Richard Moore of Scarborough, Maine. We don't know why they think that. But that's, oh yeah, that's the table that we saw that's actually in this same book. So they think daughter of Richard Moore. That also tells us, the word probably tells us that they don't have any evidence for it either. So good for it. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that Elizabeth's father was Richard Honeywell. It's spelled a variety of ways. I'm going to go with this because it's the one they standardized on later. We don't know when he was born, but we do know when the indigenous peoples of Maine had had enough of him. Let me see if I can actually copy that. I can, and it autocomplete. Oh, that's correct. That's beautiful. That's very beautiful. I think that's Maine. I think that's going to be Maine. Let's just do that. Unclear. He was probably born. We don't know if he was born in England or Maine because we don't know when. We don't know. We don't know enough yet. Okay, great. We're going to put that in there. So we now know we have Richard Honeywell here. And then we have, also from this here footnote, we have Roger Honeywell. It's his father. And he died in Saco in 1654 in Saco, no, not Saco, Saco, Maine. Roger. He would have, early immigrant to Maine, almost certainly would have come from England. Could he have been young enough? No, he came from England. We can assume that because of the date. 1621 is when Mayflower arrived. That's the earliest that any English colonizers were in New England. It is, so you could see it's possible, but if he were from a family that came over that early, it would be documented in the Mayflower stuff, and he's not. So he probably came over later, which means he probably was older, was probably born in England. Right? If he was born a child of the families that came on the Mayflower, they're not all fully documented, but we would probably know that, and he probably would not have been in Maine at that point. I'm just supposing a bunch of stuff at this point. But okay, on Richard here, we're going to take this page, and we're going to go ahead and drop that in, even though Ancestry may end up offering it to us. Annals of Scott, page 90, footnote there, and then we're going to go, because that gives us a nice pointer back to how do we think we know all this. That may be the best work that's been written on him. We don't know if there's a Honeywell book. Would you mind showing up? Thank you. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and put the same footnote here. Tink. Annals of Synod, page 90, footnote. And a typo. Good job. We're all very proud. Okay. Great. Looking good. Okay. So we got Roger and Richard. We only have one hint on Roger. That's good. See if we can do that. Yeah. Alabama surname files. It's some kind of history book or history. William Bonehead. Okay. Huh. Okay. Looks like a newspaper article, right? It looks like a series of newspaper articles. Lineally descended from Roger Honeywell, Captain Richard Honeywell, Roger Honeywell. So there is, in fact, a Honeywell line. So there's other Honeywell children, too. This is not bad. It's very like tertiary sources, right? So okay. Uh, I usually ignore this honestly because it's usually based on stuff I can find elsewhere, but it's not the worst. I think I'm gonna ignore it. I think I'm gonna not keep that. Okay. So we got your Roger Honeywell. Somebody thinks he married. No, somebody thinks Richard married a daughter of Richard Moore. Scroll down to this part here. Captain Honeywell probably married a daughter of Richard Moore of Scarborough, Maine. Okay. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put marriage in here. We don't know a date. Which probably was in Maine. That would have been Massachusetts at the time, but we're, bear with us. Okay, Sinnott thinks he probably married a daughter of Richard Moore of Scarborough. Okay, fun fact. What happens is Ancestry refresh. There it is. Refreshes the page and throws that up after I've saved it. Let's go see what god awful hints we have for Richard Honeywell. Oh, Honeywell heritage. Interesting. Let's look at. Can I look at that without download? I can. I can look at it. Honeywell heritage. I don't know what Honeywell heritage is. Let's look that up. Honeywell heritage. Well, oh, well. It's a family association with newsletters. That's a topic we can cover right now. A great idea. Ta-da! Look at that. Those are a thing. Family associations. All right, so I don't think we've covered family associations on the stream before. Let's talk about family associations. Yeah. Okay. So, Honeywell Family Association. So, this is where we could call this the slightly more recent cousin of family books. Is the idea of a family association. A lot of times you will find a lot of these on Facebook groups, but a lot of them also have websites like this one, and oftentimes they are very, very out of date. They're very much like when they're kind of Web 1.0, like the time frame that family associations were. They still exist, but man, there are a lot of people who got a lot of energy in the late 90s and early 2000s to create family association websites, which you will notice down here, this one is showing copyright 2002, right? And you can tell from the design that it has not been updated in a long time. And some people, like folks, were learning how to do web programming at that, to create sites like this. For their day, they were oftentimes really, really well done. So last updated 2002. And there may be an offline organization that is still being run. Sometimes they've become defunct. Sometimes they're still up to date. When you have something like this that hasn't, the page itself hasn't been updated in a while, you might not know. And family associations are a mixed bag because, especially if they're not being maintained, they can be a lot of like, you click on how to email this person, there may or may not be a person checking that anymore. We don't know. But sometimes this is going to be your avenue for the most recent research. And sometimes it's bad research, and other times it's really good research. So you just have to kind of dig through what they found. There is, who else am I? Member of the NIMS Society. I'm not descended from the NIMS family, but my sweetheart is. They have a really active society that did research in England and found where the NIMS family probably came from in England. And they haven't done the whole like super peer reviewed, publish at the New England Journal thing yet, or the New England Register. They haven't done that thing yet, but they put it in their newsletter, and the sources are there, and you can look at it and say, yeah, you know what, that's good quality. That looks like decent quality research. Okay, so what we have is a newsletter been reproduced as, okay, copyright 1996, that has a little profile of Sir Richard. And that's what somebody has copy pasted over here onto Ancestry. Along with some other cut and paste from other issues of the newsletter. Massacre Pond, yeah. Ambrose by JMH. Hoo boy. Mm-hmm. This one it's hard to read this stuff because it's ambushed by some 120 to 200 savages. It's just so awful when you think about what my ancestor did to them, right? This has cleaned it up a little bit, and they're referring to him as Indian fighter, but in the older, less sanitized versions, you will find that he was called Indian Killer. That was literally his nickname. So there's this colorful story from Saco, Maine, 1830, that may entirely be completely made up, about him beheading an Indian and holding the head up and challenging. Yeah. Tradition has said that his first wife and children were massacred by Indians. Tradition has said. Hunted and slew indigenous human beings as if they were wild beasts. None of that is anything to be proud of. Not a single thing. And to say that he spent decades of his life hunting and slaying indigenous human beings like wild beasts, and then to say that they were savages for coming back and giving him a dose of his own, right? That is some bullshit. That's just bullshit. It's not okay. So this is one of the places where I think, in at least by, there's people that are kind of trying to do better in talking about the history of slavery. We haven't gotten into the branches of my family that were slaveholding families who enslaved other human beings. We haven't gotten into that part of my family because that's on a different grandparents' branch. This particular, the Hammond family, they may have actually had slaves in New England back when there were such things. You get back far enough into the early New England colonizers did also have African slaves. But they ended the practice of slavery early enough that we don't think of it, right? They weren't part of, New England was not part of the thing that was doing the southern enslaving that was much more well documented in the 1800s. So they weren't Confederate style slavers. They were early colonizing. But on the Hammond branch, here on this Hammond branch, we do have the problematical stories that you would expect from people that are violently colonizing an occupied place, right? Of things not nice that were done to the indigenous people who lived there. And that is, and what's interesting is we've tried to kind of clean up our speech a little bit. People have made hints of an attempt to clean up the way we talk about our ancestors who enslaved other human beings, but oftentimes you'll get something as recent as this was written in 1996 saying a body of some 120 to 200 savages lay in ambush. Like, that is just bullshit, right? It's so dehumanizing, and it lacks any shred of empathy for what the indigenous people in Maine were going through as a result of English people colonizing their land, and the awful, awful crimes that were committed against indigenous people are really just not even talked about, right? Like, all of this is very centered around the experiences of the colonizing people and how heroically they defended their families at the expense of slaughtering the families of non-white people. Right? We just don't talk about it in any kind of way that acknowledges that the indigenous people were human, and that's not cool. It's just not cool. So in looking at, I also have run into this a couple of places. Well, the Nims family, actually, the Sweetheart's Nims family was very well known as having been involved in an Indian massacre in Deerfield, Massachusetts. That family's very famous for that. Uh, whew, in which children were kidnapped and carried away to Canada, which was really interesting. And it turns out that Sweetheart is a cousin of one of my cousins who is descended from French Canadians that included the children that were taken away. It's fascinating stuff. Anyhow, yeah. The body of the deceased Honeywell was horribly gashed and mangled. You know what? Not sorry. So, as you are doing your research, as you get back into earlier times, if you honestly, just a trigger for you, something to think about is if you see the word massacre, just pause. Because, first of all, a significant fraction of some significant number of stories that are told as Indian massacres actually literally never happened at all, are entirely fiction. At the time of colonization, it was a big deal, and in through into the 1800s, there was a propaganda type movement to tell these flowery stories of Indian massacres, um, as a way of whipping up sentiment against indigenous people that we were fighting at the time, meaning in the 1800s. Right? We were trying to continue to colonize the West at that point and clear land that was held by indigenous people. And so the desire to tell stories depicting them as terrible savages who deserved everything that was happening to them, that happened. So I have, in other branches of my family tree, I have a couple of stories of Indian massacres where there's actually not evidence it ever happened, not evidence that the people who were supposedly killed ever existed, some evidence that the people who were supposedly killed actually were still alive after, like, genuinely not true at all. There's some evidence of that, so you have to be very suspicious of the massacre stories. And then in the places where colonizers were actually killed by indigenous people, man, it is important, important to take a step back and think about uh, what might have what might have driven indigenous people to do that. Hint: it's not because they were mindless, heartless savages. It's usually going to be the opposite. It's usually going to be because they were suffering a lot. So, so family associations, especially the newsletters, are going to kind of reproduce that way of talking. You see how it was totally okay for Richard Honeywell to supposedly have lost family at the hands of indigenous people, and then it was okay for him to become a psychopathic madman who went out slaughtering as many indigenous human beings as he could. Like, that was totally okay and totally understandable. But then for them to do it back to him, after we just spent many paragraphs bragging about how good he was at slaughtering indigenous human beings, for them to then come back and do that to him was awful, right? That was something bad and shameful of them. Why? It just feels gross, right? We don't even know if any of that stuff was true. But we see a lot of places where he had that nickname, but I actually don't know if the nickname was in use during his life. I don't know that, or if it was something that was given to him by people who were writing in the 1800s who hated indigenous people and wanted indigenous people to look bad and wanted our heroic ancestors to look good for slaughtering them. Because that was a value system for a number of people at that time. Not everybody, but enough, right? Writing stuff. Whew. So, all right. Yeah, see over here, Indian killer was implacable in his hatred of the Indians. On one of their forays against the Scarborough settlers, killed his wife and child, supposedly. Right. Regardless of all treaties, to Honeywell, an Indian was a savage butcher who was to be killed at sight. Regardless of treaties. Regardless of treaties. Right? So the other colonizers were there making treaties with indigenous people saying, okay, you keep your land, we'll keep our land. My ancestor, Richard Honeywell, we're telling a story in which he didn't care. He didn't care that they went to the trouble of making peace and laying out land. He said, no, I'm going to kill them all anyway. Two indigenous people came in, being a time of peace. They left their guns in the room. They joined the white men by the fire. Honeywell came in later. Yeah. And just killed them while they were sitting around fellowshipping with white people. Imagine why they might not then trust white colonizers. Imagine that. Now, said to have killed 5 with a single shot. I bet he didn't. They were afraid of him and hated him accordingly. Yeah, you think? Indian fire. He wasn't coming. So we don't know when he picked up the nickname Indian Killer. We don't know. All right, so we could save to the tree, or we could just save. What we'll do is we'll save the link to Honeywell Family Association. HFA has a number of racist stories about him. There we go. There it is. Okay, so we have that. I typically don't. If I find that somebody has cut and pasted from a source and they've made a story on Ancestry, which is a thing I've done myself in order to hang on to it in case this website goes away. But I'm not going to save it. I'm going to go to the original. So I'm going to ignore the link there, but it was a nice pointer. It was worth looking at. Honeywell, so that seems to be a historic marker. That's interesting. I don't save pictures to my trees. All right. There's another historic marker. Man, I'm not having it. Okay, I don't save Millennium File. I don't save passenger lists. Okay. I didn't save the surname files. I don't save marriage record. That marriage record one. Okay. Okay, so anyway, so a thing that you can do though is so I don't mean to beat up on the Family Association. I do think those were uncritically reproduced from sources. The original sources in the 1800s are hella racist. We as genealogists need to do better, right? We can't just be reproducing that stuff uncritically. We can't just be saying, woohoo, Indian killer. Not today, right? Not in the 1990s either, but like especially not today. We need to be paying attention and not saying, "Ooh, look we had a hero of the colonizers because he slaughtered a lot of indigenous human beings." No, innocent people who were at peace and sitting down to the fire with other white people, right? So what that tells us is there's other white people in Maine at the time who didn't slaughter indigenous humans on sight, but our guy did. Now they didn't mind, apparently. They didn't convict him of it because that wouldn't have been seen as a murder if that story is even true. Right? So what it tells us a lot of things about the people who tell the story. It tells us a lot of things about the people who wrote the story, which we don't know when that was, but the history, hang on, we've got the came from History of Seiko and Biddeford. Okay, written in 1830. You know what? I'll play. Let's look. That was written, Introduction to Seiko, Maine. There it is. It's in the Library of Congress. There it is. History of Seiko, Maine. We're going to be able to add that as a link. So let's search inside here, or we don't know if it's going to be under that. Excuse me, we don't know if that'll be under that spelling. So. And we've had trouble with the search on archive.org before. So this may not work. But yeah, here it is. Fine. Okay. Page 229. Let's go there. Hello. Here we are. All right, so we are in a book written by a dude named George Folsom in 1830. Yep. Oh, yep. There is a whole thing that I haven't thoroughly researched about carrying off of English children to Canada. It's pretty fascinating because I had the opportunity to do some research into French Canadian history. And it seemed like Canada has a whole different set of troublesome interactions with their Indigenous people, right? The French Canadians in particular weren't slaughtering them in the same way, but they were forcibly converting them to Catholicism. We know that coming down to modern times, Canada had a lot of issues with the forced residential schools that they put Indigenous children into, and I mean, I don't want to say that Canada's history is any better than what became America's, that the French history with Indigenous folks was any better than with English. But what's interesting is there is lots of evidence that they at least lived side by side in, I don't know peace at what cost, right? I don't know what the Indigenous folks had to do to have that level of peace, but there is evidence that they lived side by side there, such that English children would be carried away, raised by Indigenous folks, converted to Catholicism, and then given Indigenous names, given French names, and then grew up and had families. And I know this because one of my cousins is descended from one of those people, and one of those children that was carried away is a cousin of my sweetheart whose family remained in New England. Like, it's fascinating. So it's told differently. Okay. Yes. So this is the following circumstances relating to a person of the former name Honeywell are told by a Reverend Mr. Tilton in a manuscript account of Scarborough. We don't know what date. We don't know what date. So this is the story of him beheading the Indigenous person and holding up their main authority, threatening. And that's all we know. That's all we know about that. And that was the only page. So that second story about the fire and all of that, right, from here, the second story was from a different newsletter. Of course, I didn't keep it. So here's the thing. This will be a way to go back and look at like one could kind of dig through this whole thing and see all the stories about his Honeywell slaveholders. See, now this is interesting, right? Oh dear. Oh dear, I'm not a member. Okay, fine. Fine. That, and then that's a thing, right? Okay, so some of the oldest ones are available on the web, but then some of them, 1996 and onward, accessible by current members with a username and password. I think I might actually have a username and password. I've seen this site before. So that also then it is not ideal that somebody's copying and pasting out of the newsletters and putting them on Ancestry for free, since they want you to join and send them a membership fee to support their work. But on the other hand, this is such an old site, and there's nothing since 2003. We don't even know if it's we don't even know if it's being operated yet. So I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. But this will be a thing that we can sift through and look for other information about the family and how we know. So we could look at, actually, we kind of want this one for Roger, because this one's got, such as it is, first known Honeywell, believed to have arrived in Boston around 1645. That's quite late for New England colonists. Time, yep. No record of where he came from. Family tradition says he came from Devon, but just we ignore that. We ignore that. Already married. Assumed that he was married to his wife, Bridget. I don't know what we know for Bridget. Oh, Bridget. Oh. Interesting. Married her second husband, Richard Moore. Interesting. Okay. Oh, wait. Whoa. Whoa. Mammoth Honeywell family book, Descendants of Roger and Ambrose Honeywell. Oh, really? Okay. So now we have even more on the Honeywell family. See, here I was saying that there wasn't going to be that much interesting about the Honeywells. Okay, so the issue here is this book was written in 1972, which means it's not out of copyright. And that means we can't just read it online because it's still copyrighted. That doesn't mean it's readily available, although it is probably in libraries. Get the book. Check out libraries. Search WorldCat. So there's a book. We don't have it. I've done this. It's good. But it is, the hard copy book is at the Family History Library. It's at New England Historic and Genealogical Society. So it is a book that one could go to a library and look at. Roger Honeywell is first found in this country in 1650 in Boston. So we can take the summary. Ambrose Honeywell is found in Boston in 1661. It is not known whether the two men were related. Genealogical data is given for selected descendants of both men. So somebody did some work in the 70s to research, well, somebody, James Melville apparently, Honeywell, researched the Honeywell family. So if I want to go find out what is known about them, I can go refer to this book. I'm going to go ahead and put here that there's a Honeywell book. There's a 1972 book. We'll say Honeywell book. There, and then I've got a link to it. And we now have, they think, the book thinks that he was in Boston, Mass. And book abstract. There. Fine. All right, and we don't know, I'm not going to bother putting Ambrose in there because we don't know if he's any relation. Okay, so that's all we can do with that book for the moment. Oh, no, you didn't. Can I? Is it on here? Due to copyright restrictions, it can't be viewed online. Fine, fine, but they have it. That's great. That's amazing. That's fantastic. Okay, great. I will go ahead. Oh, wait. Is there a permalink? Copy link. Sweet. Also, 1972 book. Not viewable. Content's not viewable. But now I have a link to it. That's the thing, right? Because look, I'm sitting right here. I've done this research before. I probably knew that that book existed, but I forget. Because I'm going to go, there's going to come a day in the near future when I'm going to go read up on the Blodgett family, look at the Blodgett book. It's going to be really cool. I'm going to get all excited about all the discoveries, and that'll be fun. And then I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to forget that I ever knew anything about a Honeywell book, right? Could be years that could go by. So therefore, all right, so we're going to be done with the book for now. What I'm not going to do is go try to find a pirated copy of that book. It's not fair to the people who wrote it. So, all right, then we haven't done this yet. Let's go ahead and do this. Where is, I wanted to find 229. I'm going to go back and find those Honeywell footnotes. I've gone too far. This is what's happened. There they are, there they are. Okay, so I want to be on this page here, and I'm going to grab this and add it to Richard is the one that this is a story about. Richard, the racial slur killer. All right. Racist anecdote about Richard from 1803. No, I mean, okay, look. History of Seiko, page 217, 1803. Racist anecdote. There we go. Okay, there it is. So, yeah. And, I mean, the thing is, look, here's the other thing about this. This is a footnote. Here's what it's a footnote about. It's somebody named John Honeywell. Probably, yeah, I'll take Honeywell. Was made prisoner, taken prisoner by indigenous folks. Right, they got a series of cruel depredations. Yes, cruel depredations. Screw you. Seriously. Attacking Scarborough, good for them. Carried away the children. Just in case you think like there's a problem with indigenous folks carrying away English children, we still do that today to them. Go Google any of the stories about the foster care system in like South Dakota and what an absolute racist nightmare it is, and the things that we are doing about like stealing indigenous people's children away from their families is horrifying. We've been doing that for hundreds of years. So like, don't, you know, and yeah, maybe they would have liked to have grown up with their English parents, but yeah, I'm not saying it's a great thing to do. What I'm saying is if it makes them vicious savages, perpetrators of cruel depredations, I assure you it makes us something much worse. That's what I'm saying. I guess that is a little bit of whataboutism, but it is. So no, I'm not saying kidnapping English children is great. I'm just saying it. You will see in these stories that it is told in this very one-sided way, and as you notice, that I'm not happy about it. Okay, so here's the story. Here's the thing. Okay, yes, it's in the context of the battle by the colonizers to claim the land that belongs to the indigenous people and all the back and forth that had to happen there. But this is just an aside, right? All it is a dude named Honeywell was taken prisoner in a particular raid. Nothing else on this page is about the Honeywell family. This is the only reference to Honeywell in the entire book. And it is a footnote that says circumstances relating to a person of the name. Right? Not the guy. Right? This is Richard. This is somebody named John. It's not this guy. They're not even saying that they're related because the writer of this book doesn't know. And they're saying, oh, by the way, apropos of nothing in particular, here's a really racist story about a guy who slaughtered an indigenous guy in a way that we think is cool. We think it's cool that he held up the decapitated head and threatened them. We're just going to throw that in here. So the only reason it's here is to say, nya, 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 indigenous people. That's unfortunate, right? It's the only reason it's even in there. So that tells us a thing about kind of the kind of mood and tone that the author of this book in 1830, sorry, I think I said 1803, it's 1830. The guy writing this book in 1830, yes, it's a guy, his name is George. This dude had a point of view. We'll just say he had a point of view that he wanted to share with us. And he did that. And I don't like it. So, but now we have it. And then that's a source that is quoted, and it doesn't say, hey, by the way, this source was written by a really super racist dude. Right? So I think that's unfortunate. That's a thing that family histories need to get better. We need to get a lot better about, is to say, we are going to encounter sources that are super racist. And we need to call those out and say, there's no good reason to think that story's even true. Yeah, heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy. And it's just too colorful. It doesn't mean it wasn't written in that original manuscript and that 1830 guy didn't copy it. He probably did. It's probably real, right? Probably copied it, but that doesn't mean the original anecdote was true. Okay, grumpy. See that? See that? I'm very cranky about it. Okay, Maine Pioneers is an index. This is a pointer here to a source. MSS means manuscript. So this tells us he was in a place called West Saco in 1653, and that we know that from something called the Bax Manuscript 1, page 87. We don't know what that is, but we could, if I hang on to this record, residence, yes, because this. Oh wait, that's not Richard. That's Roger. Cancel. That's not Richard. Oh, okay. Hang on. This is a big deal. Sorry, this is a technique. We're going to want to deal with this as a technique. Whew. It has been offered to us as a hint, but the name is Roger, and it's offered as a hint on Richard. So let's first go to Roger and see if Roger has that hint. He doesn't. So we got the hint, but it's pointing to the wrong person. And so we're going to talk about the problem that this is going to create, but also how to solve it. Okay, so here's Roger Honeywell in Maine Pioneers. If I go to review, it's only going to ask, do I want to save the record to the tree? It's not going to give me the opportunity to point it at a different person. And this is this new interface they have for hints where it's coming up on the right side. I'm not a huge fan of it. It has some benefits, but there are other things about that interface that I don't care for. Okay, so first thing we need to know is on this hint screen, we want to click through to something called the record page. That is actually going to take us to, this is what that used to go to. If you clicked the hint, it would take you to a new page rather than opening up as a sidebar. I like it being a sidebar. That is nice, but I don't like it being on but I don't like the new interface. What I wish they had done is just put this in that sidebar. That would have been awesome. I'm sure there's a technical reason why they didn't. Now, here again, we have this problem that all we can do is say yes or no. And if we say no, the thing kind of goes away. It doesn't give us, if we were just looking at a record that we had searched through a regular search, these buttons, the page would look very much the same, but the button would say save, And the save button would give us the option of saving it to the person that we are looking at. But notice that this is Roger, this is Roger, this is Richard. It's the wrong person. We don't have an opportunity to change the page and save it to a different person. But I will show you how to hack Ancestry. Very easy. Not really hacking Ancestry. We're doing a little bit of creative hacking here to get it to let us save it to the right person. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to look up here in the address bar. Address bar contains a whole bunch of code things. And what we are looking for is we've got the original address, and then we're looking for the question mark. And then we're going to look after the question mark. There's a bunch of little things. These are all variables that are being processed, and we want to leave most of them alone. And they're separated. Each variable is then separated. We've got the question mark, and then there's ampersands. So if you see those ampersands, you can just skip ahead, because this one, individual one, and then this one, DB ID, that's database ID. That's I know what some of these are. I don't know what all of them are. H equals 450. I don't know what that is. TID, I don't know what that is. Don't care. Don't need to know. PID, I believe. Oh, TID is tree ID. That's my family tree's identifier. PID is person ID. This is the one we are looking for. We're looking for the one that is called HID. And that, I'm going to just say, stands for hint ID. This variable is how this page knows that it's looking at a hint rather than a search result. And what we're going to do is we're going to, and this HID could happen in any order. It happens to be at the end here, but it could be up here. And so what we're going to do is take away HID and one of the ampersands. So in this case, it's easy because it's at the end. We're going to take off that one. If it was in the middle, we want to make sure that we only take one and not both. We don't want to take both. We only want to take one. It doesn't matter which one. We just need to leave. What we need to leave behind is the rest of this address with the right number of ampersands. So I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to hit the Enter key to force it to reload the page that way. Look what just happened. Instead of yes and no, I now have a save button. I'm sitting here on Richard Honeywell. So if I say, it'll say, do you want to save to Richard Honeywell? I don't. That's the whole point. But now that I have this drop down, I get this option right here. This is the one I want. Save to someone in your tree. I'm going to save it to, and now I can search for the person, and I want to save it to Roger. Ta-da, it's Roger. I'm going to attach that. And now I can add, and this is the old interface for saving hints. I like it better. And I just have to remember that it said West Saco, which is apparently not a real place. So we'll just say Saco. I assume that's how that's pronounced. I could be wrong. Okay, so now we know he was living in a place called West Saco, but we're going to say Saco is close enough. And save it. And that might even be how we know. It might be that he died after 1654. We don't know. Okay, so that is kind of all we know about Roger. Okay, now we can go back to Richard. So this has some value, like the super important and appreciated thing is that a lot of this is pointing to primary sources, right? 1690, we've got there we go, right? So 1690, Lieutenant Honeywell, 1691, reported as wounded. So this is pointing to a lot of primary sources that give us a lot of dates, right? 1697, he petitioned to the general court, and then we have where he died. He was married 1674. We don't actually know that he had a first marriage. That's just apocryphal. So we have Richard marrying Elizabeth Stover. And they had Roger, John, Elizabeth, and Paige. Hey, so now we know the name of Elizabeth Honeywell's mother, Elizabeth Stover. Yes. 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 This one is a good story. Do we have some time for this story? We have a little bit of time for this story. Good. This is a good story. Okay, so now what we need to do is still on. We're going to leave the Hammond tree up, but what we're going to do? Do we want to keep this? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Hang on. We're not going to add Elizabeth Stover because Elizabeth Stover is complicated. All right, we're going to close, but, okay. We have Elizabeth. I'm just going to do this. No, we're going to do Honeywell. We'll do that. It's complicated because we're going to go look at the fact that Stover is not actually her maiden name. A lot of people thought it was, but it isn't. And why do we think that? Hang on. We're going to look on Wikitree because I'm pretty sure Elizabeth Norton Stover. Oh, wait. Which is her mother. Okay. Yep, we got it. Oh, wait. Oh, I could be wrong. Wait, maybe I have this wrong. Wait, I might have this wrong. I might have the generation wrong on this. There he is. Okay. What in the actual heck has happened here? Said to be. Oh, for goodness sake, did I do this? Okay, fine. Okay, well, all right then. Yeah, I'm the profile manager. I probably wrote this. I probably wrote, maybe they added it. Let's find out. Where did that come from? I don't remember knowing a bunch of this. Okay. Okay. Edited the last name. Interesting. Okay. So we have here some sources. Genealogical Dictionary in New Hampshire. Interesting. Interesting. Oi, what are we doing here? What is this? Okay. Okay. Said to be. Okay. Oh, goody. Well, let's go look at. Wait, I have this bookmarked. What am I doing? Search Great Migration. There we go. Okay. I'll go look up. So we're looking at the New England Historic and Genealogical Society for Elizabeth Stover. Oh yeah, I'm gonna log in. I do have a membership here. There. I do have a membership on at this site. Alrighty, let's take a quick look. Okay. Alright, we're going to scroll forward because I wanted to figure out. Okay, different. This is in Norton, which is not what we want. What we want is Back, go back some more, go back to our search results. What we actually want, Sylvester Stover's mentioned here, but that's not his profile. What I want is his profile. Let's see if it's this one. See if I got this one. Is that him? Nope. Nope. Okay, where's he at? Just means he's mentioned on this page. Where am I finding him? Yeah. Said wife of Stover, Sylvester Stover. Okay. Right. There's a bunch of Sylvester Stover and his wife, and he's supposedly the father of Elizabeth Honeywell. Well, let's go look at new search. Let's go look for Honeywell. Honeywells aren't going to be in there because they, oh, interesting. Our Honeywells are probably not going to be in there because they didn't come over early enough. They weren't in Boston until 1645 or 1650. So they're only going to be mentioned in passing. Okay, so this is Elizabeth Honeywell, married in Maine. I don't remember how we know. Genealogical Dictionary of Maine and New Hampshire. That is old enough. Wait, what volume? Don't know. Oh, it's on Ancestry. Fine, we'll find it there. There we go. Okay. That's on Ancestry. Well, that's not helpful. Folks have been putting together pages of references to books that exist online, and these are nice. And you have to just know, like, whenever it was that I created this page originally, and it's been edited a bunch since I created it, but whenever I created it, I didn't have the links to those pages, even though those exist on Wikitree. So it relies on me knowing that that page exists and then pointing it to the source, which is kind of unfortunate. If I want, do I want Honeywell or do I want Stover? What I'm trying to figure out is how do we know her maiden name was Stover, because I don't remember. I have it in my other tree. I could go look at my other tree. Right, because here it just says was said to be, and I bet you that looks like something I would have written, but like, what the heck? What does that even mean? Oh, page 271. All right, fine. We'll go look at that first. So I'm flailing a bit here, y'all. That's a thing. It happens. Great Migration, Volume 5. Some database in this category. Good. Volume 5. Here, page, what did it say? 271. So I at least gave, I gave a proper citation, right? So I am able to find it. I just didn't give a link to it. Nope, this is the page we were on. Okay. Daughter Elizabeth. Ah! Daughter Elizabeth. Genealogical Dictionary of Maine and New Hampshire. Page 66, 67. Oh, good. Okay. Now, how do I find you? Doesn't say what volume. Oh, this will be in a combined volume, is what that's going to be. That's going to be a combined volume. I'm trying to get to that page. Full display. Ooh, full display. Oh, wait, Google Book. Maybe there's a Google Book. Maybe there's a Google Book. Nope, can't read it there. What about, is it on archive.org? It might not be. Archive.org. Yes, thank you. Not complicated. Just give me the link. Good. All right. No, no, we don't need that. Oh, it's the wrong one. First Settlers of New England. Fine. It's not the one I want. That's the wrong one. Maine and New Hampshire. Okay, fine. We'll go use the family search version, except that's only got 86 pages. So, means we're going to have to go back, try to find the other volumes. Just trying to find page 667. All right, this is volume 2. 180 page, extent 5 volumes. Yeah, see, there's 5 volumes. Okay, so then what we want is the WikiTree page might have links to the other volumes. Ah, 667 is going to be in volume 5. And that's going to be here. Okay, see, that's helpful. Somebody's done that work for us. And then are the page numbers going to show up in a helpful manner? Thumbnails, facing pages, picture, and help. Okay. Ugh. Oh, I'm going to have to page turn. Oh, it's killing me. Okay, right. This is a big old index, 667. So now I have to kind of try to guess how to get to that page, right? Okay, so I want to add about 65 to this. So let's just say we want to go to page 68. Look at me. Look how good I am at this. Okay. So this is Sylvester Stover, Mary Elizabeth Norton, whose mother's presence in their house. Yeah, Elizabeth and Sylvester Stover as a married couple. Elizabeth's mother-in-law was named Norton, Margaret Norton, and lived with them. And the reason we know that is because they hated each other and fought all the time and kept getting dragged in front of the court for fighting. And I don't know if that means abuse, right? I don't know how one or two way that was. It was written up as if it was mutual, but who the heck knows? Okay. Elizabeth, 85 and 1738. Okay, children, order in will. John, dependents, Josiah, Elizabeth. Okay, we get multiple things here. Elizabeth married Richard Honeywell, married Jeremiah Walford, married John Downing. Okay. Yes, I think we do accept that her name was Stover. I think we do. Okay, so Stover. The issue was, it's not a problem. Okay, and then we know that she was 85 in 1738, and we said that that meant that her birth was about 1653. There, and we don't know where, and we're going to put that in there, and then we're going to put a link to this bad boy. How do I get, can I get a link here? Can I get a share? Zoom, rotate. Can I get a share? Information. No. Okay. Picture, facing pages, thumbnails. No. So I guess I gotta just use this link here. I think that link will work. Sometimes these deep links don't work. Genealogical Dictionary of Maine and Hampshire, Volume 5, page 667. Okay, so now we know a couple of things here. What I'm going to do here is Stover, Honey. I am going to go ahead and put all her married names in here because I don't want to add those extra people yet. Walford, Downing. And then are those sources? So what I would then need to do, and it's worth doing, but I'm not going to do it on stream today, is what I want to go figure out is what are these numbers referring to? Probably, is that a reference to a source, or is it, I think, more likely a reference to their profiles, right? So is Honeywell listed in this book somewhere? What if I search? That's not volume 7, though, I suppose, is it? Can I find Honeywell? Hey, there's some Honeywells. There's a number of them. Oh, it's optical character recognition because it didn't quite read it correctly. Elizabeth Honeywell. All right, so if we go here, what do we get? We get, oh, Walford. Jeremiah Walford. Yes, sure enough. Jeremiah Walford. He married, probably not first, between 1704 and 1714, Elizabeth Stover 5 Honeywell. His petition on September stated that being very... So we don't know how he knew. His will names only wife Elizabeth, who married 3rd Captain John Downing. Let's see if we can find John Downing. That's not John Downing. Somebody else. Okay. Let's just go back here. Nope. So this is someone who had relationship with. Okay. Honeywell, Israel. Doesn't help me. John. Don't know what that is. Don't know what that. Oh, Roger. C. Moore, 15. So learning how to read the book, what are the conventions in this book, becomes kind of important. And I'm not likely to do that on the stream, but what we want to figure out is what are all the abbreviations mean. To do that, the way we would do that is that we would look for the front pieces, the front matter of the book, and the endings of the book, and try to find out at the introduction to the book, it likely lays out, here is how to read a profile in this book, here is what the numbers mean, and that's what we want to look for. Oh, this is errata, because it's saying omit this, add this, omit this, add this, omit this, add this. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, we looked at that. We looked at this. James Widger. That's later. It's a later Elizabeth Honeywell. Not ours. Probably a cousin, not ours, though. All right, this is the one we were looking at. This is the Stover connection. Okay, so it says she married 1st Captain. So we know they think she did. We don't know on what basis. We don't know why they think that. And then we have this one connects her to Jeremiah Walford. And then this one, land purchase. Jumping around a bit, as you can see. All right, who's that? I don't know who these are. I'm trying to find a surname. I can't. These are all profiles of somebody. Okay, Warren. That doesn't help me. Let's see, Honeywell. Wait, where's Honeywell? See Honeywell 6. Okay, fine. Right, these are mentions. So then the other thing we need to do, Stevens, is we'll have to look in the other volumes. So what we want, we gotta go a long way back to go find that Wikitree page because we browsed a lot. All right, volume 5. Oh, fine. What happened to the Wikitree page? Fine. Oh, here. So that would be, where would we find F? So H would be in here. Volume 3. Fine, we'll open that in a new tab. Volume 3, view all pages. See if Honeywell is in here. Ta-da! Okay, that's a lot of Honeywells. Okay, local name in County Devon. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Okay. So we had Ambrose, Charles, Israel, another Israel, John. None of those is my people yet. Richard. Captain Richard. Where's Roger? Roger. There we go. Aha. Well. Okay, see, this is a lot of good stuff. This is our Roger. Fisherman mariner, West Saco. Lived on Parker's Neck near the entrance to the pool, adjoining part of land where later the fort stood. Likely there by 1650, but, and I love this, as obscure as his son was prominent. Drowned before July 4th, 1654. So there must have been some kind of thing that happened in 1654 that indicated that he was deceased. Lists 75B. So we want to find out what those lists are. Widow Bridget. Married second Richard Moore. Okay. And likely took her children to Scarborough. We know that. We know Scarborough was in play. So Scarborough, where her son Richard testified in 1686. I don't know what plus or minus 40 means. That he had lived about 28 years. Ho, 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 ho. All right. I'm going to do this so that I remember that she had all these surnames. But now what we want to do is we want to go to Richard, her son Richard. All right. So we know there was a Bridget. So Bridget was a real person. And there seems to be evidence of that. All right. So what we want here, we want to grab this and throw that here, because that is a good source for Genealogical Dictionary of Maine and New Hampshire, volume 3, page 362. 362. The Indian Killer. All right. So there's Roger. So this is alphabetical. It's not chronological. It's alphabetical. That's why it's that way. 362. Ah, and Captain Richard's own profile is here. So we have Roger and Richard both. And we'll just use that same link. Okay. So this is actually going to be, if we can puzzle out what this thing is telling us, Maine and New Hampshire, volume 3, page, what did I just say? 362. 362. This is the best data we've found so far, right? Because it's pretty much, it's not focused on telling fanciful, stupid-ass stories. Ha! Yeah, thank you for not banning Nightbot, Cranky. Appreciate it. Okay, so we have... This is not fanciful stories. This is not trying to tell us anything about how we should be proud of how wonderfully racist these dudes were. Nothing. It's just saying, where did they live? What are the records? That's the stuff I like, right? They existed. Where were they? What were they doing? How do we know stuff? Okay, so we know stuff. Drowned before 4th of July. Okay, fine. So I'm going to put in here, drowned before 4th July 1654. And I'll put the source there, Great Genealogical Dictionary, Maine and New Hampshire. There. Okay. But now what we know is that he had a wife, Bridget. We don't actually know that Bridget was the mother of Richard, but what's interesting is that this record says where her son Richard testified. Mother remarried, possibly. So it thinks that that was his mother. Oh no. Okay. Oh no, famous ancestry. No, that's bad. Okay. Okay. Well, maybe. Okay. So now we know a thing. Oh, we know a thing about Richard, which was 1686. He had lived about 28 years. Oh, don't make me do that math. Don't make me do it. The hint probably has it, and I'm not gonna. Okay. 1686 minus 28. Oh, killing me. 1666. 20. 1658. I do that. Now I put in the residence fact, and that's going to say that on 3rd of April, 1686, in Scarborough, Maine, chair, testified he had lived about 28 years. Dictionary, Maine and New Hampshire. Fine, we'll just put the whole quote. I don't know what minus 40. I suppose that might be plus or minus 40 days, maybe. Math here. Where's the plus or minus sign? Will Ancestry let me use it? Come on, baby. There it is. Yes. Okay. Her son Richard testified 3rd April 1886, split by 40. He had lived about 28 years. Done. Sweet. So we want that. Now, what that's going to do, I'm cheating. Yes! I wanted Ancestry to check my math for me. So it did. All right, good. let's see, age about 28 in 1686, which is in New Hampshire. Got it. Right? Because eventually, even though those two facts are right next to each other and it says that right there, I want this here because I might end up putting new facts in between, and then if they're not sitting right next to each other, I'm going to forget how I knew 1658. So I'm going to do that. Right? So I've made that note there. I've gotten very thorough about that. And then this is also going to be, okay, that's his. We're going to come back to that. So this is the best we have about Bridget. And we're going to go ahead and say Bridget Honeywell. Come on. Honeywell. We have no idea what her name was. And then Bridget Moore. Oh, Bridget Honeywell Moore. That's right. So we'll go ahead and put that in there. Moore. Bridget Honeywell Moore. She was at, I can't read that, Accensing in April 1771, plus or minus 50, deposed about Sheldon's children. Richard, born 1645 to 46. That's not what that just said. Before September, he was caring for his stepfather and something administered 1682. See also Israel. Okay. All right. So this is what we know. It doesn't say 1645 to 6. It says 1658. That's what that just said. All right, fine. Age. What? Oh. He had lived in Scarborough about 28 years. I am an idiot. Idiot confirmed. Okay. Bridget. Okay, fine. We gotta the whole quote. We need the whole quote. Widow. Okay. Hang on. Don't do that. Cancel that. And Richard testified that he had lived. I'm gonna put it here. In Scarborough. About 28 years. Okay. So he relocated in 1658. So let's do that. We'll add a residence fact. Residence fact, 1658. Scarborough. Got it. So that's not how long he'd been alive. That's not how old he was. That's how long he had lived there. Okay. GMH. Had lived in Scarborough 28 years. 1686. 28 years. Okay. Now we have here 1645. About 1645. Okay. So what we actually have is age about 31 in 1676. Logical election in New Hampshire. Got it. Man. This stuff is hard. Eh? All right. That tells a better story. Plus or minus 40. And then that 40 may mean that he actually was about 40 years old then. Okay. That seems fine. We now know these things. Okay. Fine. Okay, but Hampshire. Says it was Dover. Okay. All right. No evidence for the tradition of a first wife. Okay. When married a York girl in 1674. Okay. Lot of stuff to try to read. Okay, so we kind of gleaned what we could glean. Okay. So we don't know. So Bridget Honeywell Moore married. We don't know what date. What do we know about her? Ugh, Millennium File. No, she wasn't born in Maine in 1621. No. It's a no. Okay, good. That's why we don't take Millennium File, people. Okay. So Bridget Honeywell said to have married Roger Honeywell. Let's go look at the page, see what it says. Because remember that in Tory, so we're back at Tory. Here we are. Stover Moore. That's messed up. Oh, that's okay, fine. All right, Roger Honeywell, here, died 1654. Bridget unknown. That's good. That means Tory doesn't know either. Married second Richard Moore, circa 1644. Lived in Saco, Maine. Okay, good enough. I'm going to say about 1644. About 1644 would have been when she married Roger, not when she married Moore. Yes, that is fine. Okay. Okay, and Tory also has a date. Okay. Tory does have this date, 1674, for the marriage of Richard and Elizabeth. Don't know where that's from. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and save this because it's got lots of good information in it, including Honeywell and Moore. Marriage to Roger Honeywell. Do we want to say about 1644? Yeah, sure. Sure. We'll go with Maine because that's where they were both living. There. Sure. Right now, look, I didn't take the last time because I didn't think it was certain enough. I did this time. It's not consistent. What can I say? All right. So what I'm trying to do is just pull down what do we know? What do we know? What do we know? Right. So 1658 is when they moved. So sometime between 1654 and 1658 is when she would have married Moore. And anything else? She was something accusing the neighbors. Approximately deposed about the children. If that's age, then April 1671, about age 50. Maybe. All right. Residence fact. 1671. Scarborough, Maine. Hello. Deposed. Age about 50. Which would mean she was born in about 1621. That's what the Millennium File thought. It's just the Millennium File was stupid and thought she was born in Maine, which she was not because there weren't English people living in Maine at that time. So she was born in England. Deposed 1971, age 50. Genealogical Dictionary of Maine and New Hampshire. Done. Ah, we need to put this page here. Okay. Genealogical Dictionary of Maine and New Hampshire, volume 3, page, forgot again, 362? 362. All right, well, with that, it is about that time. There we go. So what we have, I didn't think there was going to be enough to do on the Honeywell line. I was wrong. So we started out looking at Benjamin Hammond here, but we decided to take a detour and see what we could do about his wife, Elizabeth Honeywell. We still don't know when Elizabeth Honeywell was born. We don't really know anything about her vitals, but we learned that her mother's name was Elizabeth Stover, and that Stover married a couple of other people and had different names, and then that her father's name was Richard, and that he was a big racist, and one-man genocidal squad were all very proud, and then that his parents were Roger and Bridget, and that Bridget married Moore. We don't know what her maiden name was, but that she then went on to marry Moore. So we kind of have that. It's a bit of a mess. I would really want to come back here and clean up those profiles. I would want to add the other spouses. I don't add multiple spouses for siblings, but I do for ancestors. So I would probably want to go back in and do this. And then there does happen to be a very interesting mystery around the Sylvester Stover and Elizabeth, whose name was given as Norton. I believe it is. I'm not super convinced by, like, my own profile here is very shady about Elizabeth being the daughter of Sylvester and Elizabeth. And I would want to go back and actually shore up that and find out why do we think that. Because there's some accounts, yeah, see. So all we have right now is this date is listed in the Genealogical Dictionary, and it's also listed in Tory, which means it's somewhere. It's coming from somewhere, but we don't know what it is, and we don't know what it says. The fact that it's an exact date in Tory usually means that there is a marriage record. That is not 1868, people. That is not what that says, and we don't have evidence for her birth date. And what even is that footnote? Oh my God. So, okay. So this is one of the frustrations about WikiTree is, even though I wrote this biography originally, either I screwed a bunch of stuff up, which is totally possible, or other people have come in and made edits that are not good. And I think that's likely. There are footnotes indicating sources to a person's tree online and not to real sources, and that concerns me a whole bunch. I would want to try to dig back to sources. So this is an example of a WikiTree profile that has some issues, and I own them because I'm the profile manager. That's going to be my problem to clean up. So I'm going to want to come in at some point. Maybe that'll be something we can do on our next stream, is talk about the process of cleaning up a WikiTree profile, because this one needs work. And it's, oh God, do we really need all the variations of Honeywell? Because I'm going to say we really don't. Okay, so we'll think about doing that maybe on a future stream. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining. It's been lovely having you viewing. Check out my YouTube. Oh, wait. Let me see. Do I have a YouTube channel? YouTube. Yes. You can see full-length videos of my past live streams on our YouTube channel. Feel free to hop over there if you're watching this in video on demand. If you're watching video on demand on Twitch, you won't be able to participate in chat, which is fine. Chat was pretty chill today. But you can leave comments on the full-length videos over on YouTube. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, what was confusing. If I did a fast mouse click and you want me to go back and show you what I did there, because I do that sometimes. But in any case, thanks for joining, and we will see you next time.